Hey folks, this is Totally and welcome to some more Game Dev, February edition. It has been about 3 weeks, I think. If we check the January schedule, I think, the last time we streamed was January 20th, where we did some Slime State Machine stuff. Fixed some bugs over that end of January, and then haven't had a ton that I've been doing in February. Been a bit busy in general, and just haven't been able to, find the focus, I guess. But I have been working my way through kind of some changes to kind of combat. It's complicated. It's not really changing combat as much as making things a little more streamlined. It's definitely one of those things where you just don't even notice it unless I point it out. But it feels better to me. So we're going to jump in. We're going to take a look at where things are at. Partly for myself, but partly also just to keep track of, I don't know, the progress. It's been a while. I just mostly want to get a stream in. And I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm running out of tasks. So playing through could be helpful. Before we dive in and start from the beginning and just play through the whole game or the state of the demo, I kind of want to just start by taking a quick look at where things are at combat-wise, what I've been working on off camera. So let's zoom in max view here. So the big thing that I've done is I've made it so that when you reveal an enemy, that enemy immediately spots you, and you and the enemy move at the same time now. So before, it used to be that you would move and then the enemies would all take their turns and they would move at the same time, but they would go separately from you. So you'd move, they moved. I've done probably way more work than was necessary to make it so that they actually are now moving at the same time. And if we get into the same space as them, they'll move, catch up, and hit us again. And so essentially you can't outrun the enemy anymore. We've also made it so that your action points are not just a strict 3 turns to their 1. Instead, you get 3 pips for attacking. But the moment that you move, you kind of give that up. So I have 2 pips of actions left for attacking, but if I move, I'll move and get hit. And I think, there is currently a memory leak when the player dies. So there are problems, and that's kind of what I've been still working on, is that the overlapping is kind of really caused a bunch of headaches, because there's a lot of stuff happening now where when you used to just be the player's turn and the player would just die and we'd move on, now it's oh, the player has no turn, so the AI tries to take turns infinitely, which causes problems, obviously. And there's been a lot of general issues like that. The other big thing is even just what I just showed. We should probably close Unity and reopen it now because of that memory leak. Cancel. What are you complaining about? What did I modify in here? I added a space. Okay. It's getting it to the point where they could follow you was also kind of tricky, because with the enemy going at the same time as you, technically you're moving between tiles. So when the enemy's chasing you, I'm having to essentially keep track of where the player is going to be, as well as where the player currently is. So there was a bunch of changing to the AI's behavior and their logic to handle this almost planning phase that's happening simultaneously as the player takes their actions. The player kind of registers where they want to go, and then the AI thinks about where the player is and is trying to go, and then tries to move to an appropriate tile and attack the eventual location where the player will end up. It's not that different realistically from player go, enemy go, player go, enemy go, but it just feels more fluid. It feels less turn-based and more dynamic, even though still it's a player's control over when they want to move forward. Okay, so that's kind of what we've been working on. Very quick 3-minute summary, but let's dive in and take a look at the game as a whole. I haven't done a ton to the core loop stuff. Let's pause this and bring in the actual in-game audio for this. So this cutscene, I guess technically speaking, I'm realizing This is not a full picture of the things that I've been doing for the last 3 weeks off camera, because I have been doing some paper prototyping and like narrative writing, but not all of that narrative writing has gotten it into the build. So a lot of these cutscenes still have the original dialogue in them, but I have been working on dialogue that I hope is a little bit better, that's making kind of hints and promises of things that we want to kind of like, I want to allude to more, which with each line. Each line should do a lot to explain the world building. And I'm in a castle ? Is not necessarily the line that's doing that right now. Yeah. So a lot of this I've been working on revisions, but I haven't committed to anything yet. I'm still just kind of writing it out over and over again. And I will update them at some point. But for the time being, this stuff remains pretty much the same as what we saw in end of December. Not a lot here has been modified. I don't believe there's been any changes to this sequence either. There might have been some bugs that's come about, mostly to do with the way that we're changing the turn order. But overall, this is, you know, from a player-facing standpoint, still the same experience. Yeah, same dialogue, same actions. I will call it one thing that I've been experimenting with, and Drixie is really excited about, and maybe is something we'll like take a look at today, or maybe in the next little while. But so we have this idea that this is meant to be like an isekai. It's meant to be anime in nature. And one thing that I've saw when watching some stuff recently was this kind of like, anime is obviously very heavily influenced by manga. A lot of anime is based off light novels. And so I got this idea of like, well, what if we try and bring in some of those ideas into here? What's a good version of this to show? We could try this one. So I was like playing around with this, and what I realized I can do is we can do some of these like essentially frames. I want to make this a little more narrow. And so we can kind of do a picture-in-picture almost, is another way to think about it. If I get the frame selected properly, we can do like these types of shots that if we wanted to, we could do something like this frame, and then we can copy this panel and make another panel, which is like this. And if we offset the position a little bit, we can have like almost like this zoomed in shot of the two of them. I don't know if this is going to work wholesale like this. Obviously the dialogue boxes would need to be shifted and moved in some way in order for this to work. But like something about this like panel in panel is in the same way that the tile stuff really called to me. Like having the tiles revealed feels unique and interesting. Having like these panels appearing like this feels like it could be kind of neat and interesting as well. Yeah, again, figuring out how we center a line. All of this is being done by hand right now. I probably would want to have some sort of system to like zoom in and target specific characters or specific tiles. But I like this idea of kind of bringing in this like comic style. Anyway, so that's something we've been experimenting a little bit with. Not done a ton of work, just kind of got this idea of like, well, what if I did a zoomed in shot? And you can see that these versions is like a secondary zoom camera, which only sees the environment. It doesn't see any of the UI, which allows us to kind of make sure that there's none of the actual dialogue boxes or UI appearing in here. But we might want some of the dialogue boxes to appear over top of a panel to give it more of that comic feel. I don't know. There's neat stuff here. Hello, Amorphous. Welcome. How have I been doing? I've been doing great. I appreciate the tier 3 and the 50 months subscription. Still insane, and I appreciate you greatly. And on YouTube side, also welcome to I'm going to try Gokon, but I may be mispronouncing. Anyway, so that's just this kind of experiment we've been playing around with panels. I may do a little bit of that today because I think there's something about, like, if we could figure out how to dynamically set the viewpoint of a zoomed in image of, like, hey, I want to try and, you know, focus a specific tile instead of having to give specific integers, essentially, so that we could focus on a specific, like, aspect of the world. And then, like, how much space do we want? Like, these panels can be varying in widths and height. And so, like, changing these, like, do we want to have set ones? I don't know. This is a fun feature. This is, like, a feature that I could sink my teeth into, and honestly has no, like, value in terms of, like, the core demo experience, but it's really nice polish that I think could be really interesting. The nice thing that we can do about these as well is, for this cutscene specifically, the goddess walks forward here. So if we zoom back in and we hit OK, the goddess, like, hands something off to Hero, which is, like, meant to be this clock. Again, the dialogue and the specific nature of this cutscene is still being worked through, but this clock handoff could also be represented not by, like, a zoom in shot, but by, like, a static image representing the goddess handing you something. And if we did, like, a pixel hand with the clock in it that came up at that moment, I think it would also sell that narrative quite well. We don't have any good shots of that yet. Drixie's been kind of experimenting, but I think one of these, is it this one? We, like, tried just adding Hero's face as, like, an object. And again, I think this could work really well. It almost gives me, like, a Persona 5 vibe. When I, like, started penciling this in, I was like, I feel like there's a video game that does this. But I, like, and obviously there's probably a lot, but, like, the eyes specifically, I feel like is a Persona thing, but it's been a while since I've played it. Oh, Amorphous, I just saw the message, has to get going, but I'm glad things are good and glad to see you're back at it. Yeah, I mean, always trying to get through it, but I will say that, like, the month of December, where we had that 4 weeks to work, very much spoiled me, and it's been much more difficult to get back into the flow of things. So yeah, pretty much everything up to this point. I mean, I want to work on those panels. I want to maybe do some better dialogue. I want to maybe experiment with, like, different props in the Goddess Realm and stuff. But, like, for the most part, those settings and those spaces feel pretty close to what we're looking for. There's more bugs than anything else at this point. Let's make a new permanent save here in slot number 3, because I've kind of lost track of which save is what. So again, we're running into the slime here. We kind of talked about this at the beginning of the stream, but the slime is just in general a lot more responsive, and it feels a lot more quick to move through. One thing I've done earlier today, which I haven't really had a chance to dig too deep into, but I've given the slimes a bit more health. Still not sure how I feel about it. I'm going to switch to controller. Oh, also, Drixie has done a pass on all of the rooms and given them at least a base level of props. Oh, right. Okay, well, problem number 1 that we should probably fix is that memory leak. I'm pretty happy with the combat as it is. It's really just the fact that I've introduced a ton of bugs from the making everything simultaneous movement. Do we have... Oh, we have all kinds of memory issues, but we don't have a actual error that tells me what the problem was. It's on player's death, so I suppose we could try and look at that code and get an idea. I'm going to close Unity down again and reopen it. But obviously the player dying is going to be a big problem for us being able to tell whether or not this is working. Like, if I want to do a review of the project and kind of make notes in PureRef like we've done in the past for, like, polish items and bugs, we've done this before, I'm going to need to be able to have the player die and go back to the Goddess Realm and start a new run. Let's open a random script, get Visual Studio back open again. I'm gonna pause the game audio for now. So essentially what I've done, just to talk about the script a little bit, is it used to be that we would have a next unit turn, which would like tell the current director to update, and then it would switch to the unit turn. And the unit turn would say, okay, as long as we're not paused in gameplay and we're not in the middle of transitioning to a new room and we're not going to transition to a new room, if the turn is complete, then we would say, great, do any end of response stuff if need be. Otherwise, go to the next unit, and it would just go back here. And it basically alternated back and forth between next unit and unit turn. What I've done is I've made this combined unit turn, and the combined unit turn essentially just says next the same way, but I've made a bit of a modification, which is that inside of the current director, here, when we end the round, if the current state is not the combined state, then we switch the director. Otherwise, in this new world, we basically say the current director is always the player director. And instead of just having this base logic of checking to see if we're not in a room and if the turn is over, do stuff, we now have a if the player director has a plan. So instead of just the way it used to work was in the player director, we would just like, when you push a button on the UI, it would say current unit perform an ability, and it would just initiate and start that ability immediately. Just kick off the ability, play out all the attack animations, all the particles, all the stuff would happen through this sequence. But now instead we build a plan out of that ability. So we construct an ability sequence step, which passes that ability in, and we build a plan for it. And when we see that we have a plan, there's one set up, then the combined turn system will say, okay, great, get the plan from the player and clear it so that we don't repeat that plan. And then if the turn will complete, aka is if the actions the player is taking will end the turn, then we're going to ask the player, or sorry, the AI to come up with a plan. It's essentially what Next is doing. Next was written when I was thinking this was going to be like hard turn-based, but now it's really coming up with a plan for every single unit. It's looping through all of them and coming up with a plan for every single unit and constructing a list of plans. And then inside of here, if we have a plan, aka there were units and they came up with an idea, then we add that plan to the list. And so we will have a list of the players' plans and a list of the AI's plans. And then we sort them. If they're going to do like movement and stuff, we basically let them do all of that stuff at the same time. But if it is a solo ability like attacking or something that's going to have things responding, and we don't want things moving at the same time, then we'll mark that as solo and we'll play that individually. And so after we've sorted all of those steps and like set them up correctly, then we just play it. So what I guess is happening is in this world where the player has died, I'm going to guess something is going fundamentally wrong here. If we call next and the player count is 0, we immediately return. And for some reason that means that when we come back in here... Oh, is the turn complete? Oh, because the unit has died, I bet you we are in turn complete, and then turn complete changes us to next unit state, and next unit state now has like an update built into it, so it basically switches back to the combined state here, comes back in, finds out the turn is still complete, goes to the next unit state, and it just keeps looping between these over and over again. And because it's doing it in the same frame, it's an infinite loop and we never get out of it. But shouldn't we transition to the Goddess Realm at some point? Like, the player has died. Shouldn't we eventually exit out to the outro state, would be my expectation? This gets set when we register the next transition, which happens in a number of ways. Okay, let's add some breakpoints, and let's debug through the code a little bit. Didn't want to dive too deep into debugging and fixing bugs right away, but this bug is going to prevent us from kind of getting the loop experienced, which is what I want to see for this review. So this is kind of a blocker, and we've got to resolve it in order to move forward with kind of testing the rest of everything else. Unity's thinking about debugging. I believe Unity. Okay, let's see. So, continue. Continue? No? Let's try restarting. Unity's being very upset with me. My idea, though, is if we can see where this register transition is happening, hopefully we can follow the line back and figure out where it should be triggering on the player's death. Because this used to work. It's something about my combining the player and enemy's turns that's causing it to break. Got more folks on the YouTube side than the Twitch side today. Rarity. Okay. We might want to break all of our old breakpoints, but let's see what happens here. Good. Let's auto end. So when we transitioned back to the Goddess Realm here, we didn't hit this call. Okay. That's confusing. So this transition manager is more for transitioning between... I know this definitely gets hit when we walk between rooms. It unloads one room and loads up the next room. So my question is, where am I handling transitioning back to the Goddess Realm? That's going to be in the back-end state manager. Somewhere in here, trigger cutscene on player death. That seems appropriate. On death notification. Okay. So when the player dies, we should trigger a cutscene for player's death. And if that's the expectation, I would expect that at some point we would get into here and we would get into the end of turn responses. And one of those should be the player's death, which should trigger us to go back to the Goddess Realm. Okay, reload this one. At this point, we should have the breakpoints in place for us to be able to... Oh, it's not gonna... Shouldn't need this one anymore. Don't need this one. Don't need this one. Don't need that one. We can turn these ones off. That one we want to keep track of. Don't care about this breakpoint. Nope. Don't double click. And we'll leave that one on. Okay. So. Let's walk up to the enemy. And then we're going to just skip our turn a bunch. Till eventually we should die. I'm going to turn these back on. Okay, this one's not helpful because we're going to basically hit that one continuously because it's getting updated every frame. I'm going to want to put one level lower than here. Okay. And then skip our turn. Is the player dead? We have no way of knowing. No. Okay. We're in here. There's the death. That should trigger a cutscene. Oh, it's going to go through everyone. Okay, there we go. It found the death cutscene from the playable cutscenes. Yeah, generic player death, end of turn, trigger name player death. Okay, so we are trying to play the correct cutscene. We will breakpoint down to here. And we have gotten all the way to the bottom and we have chosen player death. There's a possibility there could be multiple cutscenes is what was going on here, but there's only one that we're going to find. Now that we found that cutscene, we're going to try and load it. Okay, we got in here. We are adding the response, and we're going to add the response with the correct typing. Should get into this call. We do. This is an end of turn, and it has a transition to the Goddess Realm registered. Okay, so at some point now, something should check this. I expect that we should get here, and we should go into the end of turn response combat state. I hit forward on breakpoints. We are not getting here. Are we getting anywhere? Is the game broken? No? Okay, we're back. Interesting. Okay, so the current unit, which is dead, doesn't think its turn has ended. And because it doesn't think its turn has ended, we get back into has plans, which has nothing. Okay. So this is just looping. That should be fine then. I'm not sure why this is, like, it's not getting into the game over state, but it is. It's also not causing the memory leak. That might be because we have the debugger attached. Or somehow this state is a little different. Because I was skipping my turn and died opposed to hitting the enemy. Interesting. Alright, well, let's just fix the problem. So the problem is this call here isn't being hit, which will transition us off to the Goddess Realm. And it's not being hit because is turn complete is going to come back as false because the current unit is dead. But it doesn't realize its turn is over, which is silly. There is an on death notification. So there's a couple ways to solve this. Problem number one is that end of turn is getting reset back to false. So we could try and find all the spots where reset turn is happening. Mainly happening here. Oh, is that the problem? Oh, I see. In order to make everything feel snappy, I made it so this next call happens pretty much instantaneously at the same time as when you submit an action. Or as soon as the action is done, it will hit next on the same frame, so that there's never any delays. The old system used to be a little slower than that and was not as frame precise. And so what's happening, I think, is we're getting into here on the same frame the player dies, or very close to it, and the player's turn is getting reset, and then we're getting the call afterwards that the player is dead and removing them from the list. But it's already past the player count equals 0 call, so we need to clear the current unit. So I think here, if unit equals current unit, that's current unit turn. This one. Current unit turn dot end turn. There's maybe some better ways of fixing this. Namely, it's possible the death notifications should be coming in before this call can happen. But that's going to require a lot more kind of tedious debugging. Oh, we got back here again. Interesting. We're going to stop debugging. It's my anticipation that this should fix the memory leak, whatever was causing it. And we can get back on track, hopefully. Let's load here. Gokhan in YouTube asking, do you have a link or trailer of some kind of material for your game? Not yet. We probably could construct something with the pieces we have here. Like even just little shots of these cutscenes would probably be enough to build a bit of a cutscene, but the goal has been more working towards the demo side of things, and trying to get a playable. And so we haven't really been focusing so much on like marketing besides kind of these YouTube and Twitch streams. Okay, so the game didn't crash, but we also didn't leave. So that wasn't enough to fix it. That's fair. Yeah, I guess I haven't done a good video even to explain the concept of the project in a while. The last one was like a review of the last 2 years, which was from November, which now is like 3 months ago, which is crazy. But that had kind of a general overview of what we're hoping to succeed at. But even that feels kind of outdated after the month of December, where we basically had 4 weeks of continuous development. I had taken a bunch of time off. And then February and January has not been as productive, but it's still, I feel like I'm pretty far away from that that video. I can link that one. Well, I don't know, it's not very helpful. The main idea, though, is simply that we're trying to build kind of like an anime-style isekai as like a general like topic, I suppose. There's, I don't know, I haven't given the pitch in a while either, so I feel like I'm not super good at explaining it right now either. So it thinks the player has a turn. Let's skip here. So turn is over. Oh no, here the turn is over. It's getting cutscenes, it's adding responses. Oh, that worked. So it's a timing issue. There are other issues to do with the combo system, but I'm less concerned about that. So on the turn the player dies, we are adding a response on their death. I suppose that makes some sense. It's just not registering the death fast enough for it to be caught. And by the time we, like... It's just weird to me that the code we just wrote to make it so that when the player... When the player dies... We should get this notification and we should re-end their turn again, even if they took a turn. It's a bit of a hack. Maybe we need to do this properly. So we can see the moment that the player... we take the next turn. So we should add another debug here for the frame at which we register the death with the backend state manager in here. This is on player's death as well. So we're going to call this on player death. Cutscene. And we're going to figure out when the timing of these are happening. And then I'm going to take a look through the call stacks and see if there's a way to make it so that the death happens sooner. But I'm going to guess there isn't. Just making it so that everything is happening simultaneously just makes it really tricky. Because not everything's as clean cut of like, okay, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn. Let's remove these breakpoints. Let's remove the end of turn breakpoints for now. Remove the cutscene checking stuff. And then we're just going to skip a few turns here until we end up taking enough damage to die. Should be around here. Okay. So at this point, we have hit the death notification. Now that happens when the knocked out status is enabled. So this is probably happening the frame after the knocked out status is added. Oh, actually it might be happening instantly. So yeah, the moment that the player's health reaches 0, so when a HP change has happened, basically, we will trigger a automatic status effect. And then if it's the hero, there's some bad code here, but if it's the hero, we tell the backend management system, hey, reset the clock, set their health back to max, and then trigger the death cutscene, which will cause us to go back to the Goddess Realm again. So that seems fine. I would guess at this point we've already gone back into here. Yeah, because we've registered the cutscene. The cutscene is good to go. If we take one more turn, it'll actually perform. The problem is that we check at slightly different times. Let's maximize this so we can see more easily. Here's the death cutscene. That happened on 4302. This is the next call. Oh, very interesting. Hey, Red Yoshi. Hope you're doing well. So this call here happens. Where's this one? This is happening on the player director. Okay, so at the point where we've already registered the cutscene, or the cutscene should be added, and the player should be dead at this point, we do call next after that. The question is, why do we get in here into the next unit turn instead of coming in here if we should have registered end of turn cutscene? Because this on death should have come in, triggered a cutscene, should have found the cutscene, oh, it has to instantiate the cutscene. We have to load it from memory, and because of that, this will take a little bit of time. So yeah, it's happening too fast. Even though this happens on the same frame as us updating the turn, the cutscene won't be loaded for who knows how many seconds after. Depends on the person's machine, to be honest. So we need to... Okay, different side of the problem. At the very least, we shouldn't get another player count. We should be seeing this error repeated over and over again because it shouldn't have found a character. Unless this death notification isn't happening fast enough. Because at this point, the player should be removed from the list, I would expect. Because if we got a death notification here... Okay. Alright, narrowing in. This is not what I expected to be working on today, but it rarely ever is. Rarely ever is. Alright. I want to try and come back to your question, Gokon, in that what is the video game? Essentially, we're trying to build a JRPG that is framed around the narrative concept of an isekai, where your character is reincarnated by a goddess, and you are sent in to defeat the Demon Lord. The whole name of the game is Infinite Retries to Defeat the Demon Lord. And the core concept is that the goddess sends you down to the realm where you proceed to explore almost like dungeon crawler style with a turn-based tactical movement. But I'm trying to make that tactical movement feel as fluid as possible such that the player and the enemies are moving at the same time, combat feels snappy and quick, and it feels relatively as action-y as I can make something turn-based feel. After you kind of do some exploration, you'll eventually run out of time because the goddess can only hold you in the fantasy world for so long before the Demon Lord kind of pushes you out. At which point you return back to the goddess realm, and you can start from any goddess statue you found in the world. So when you first start, you'll start at one statue, you'll progress forward, you might, run out of time, die, go back to the goddess realm. You'll level up your skills. Each skill has its own skill tree associated with it, which will proceed to upgrade your stats so that you get stronger, and you'll be able to defeat enemies and move through areas more quickly, and eventually you'll reach the next goddess statue, at which point that'll be kind of a checkpoint, which will allow you to make it further into the game. So as you play, you will get further and further through until eventually you will, defeat the Demon Lord. How long that takes is a question I'm still trying to figure out. Me and Drixie, my wife Drixie, is doing all the pixel art. If you haven't seen videos in the past, we're essentially trying for maybe 3 zones: the forest, the mountains, and kind of like a deserty volcano area. We also have other kind of biomes and stuff that we want to kind of insert as well. There's talks of like adding a town and a guild hall and kind of doing some of that cliche kind of isekai anime idea. Trying to figure out how that all loops back into this kind of repeating through the same area kind of flow. So like if you start in the town, for example, how does that change the experience if you still have a limited amount of time? Or by the time you reach the town, have you gained enough bonus time? Because every time you clear a room, you get more time on your clock because you're regrowing the goddess's power by pushing back the Demon Lord as you explore the environments, yada yada. There's a bunch of stuff, but the core concept is it's almost merging this idea of doing runs, but the world is fixed and it's about making progress forward. But from each goddess statue, it'll kind of be like doing runs to the next goddess statue and trying to make it further in the experience until the world opens up, and then it becomes a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to say Metrovania, but a little bit more interweavy than straight linear progress. There's also more stuff that I haven't even talked about on stream, but hopefully that gives a broad idea of what we're trying to achieve here. I know it's words, not pictures and trailers. I probably would look better, but okay. I want to check the breakpoint in player here. I want to make sure that's there. Okay. We're going to have ourselves get just killed. Okay. On death notification is happening here. This should register an event eventually. Okay, we got that breakpoint there. Okay, we are also coming in here. This end turn may be irrelevant now, but we're saying that the turn is over. Okay. Maybe this was bad. Maybe we shouldn't have added that. Okay, so then we're removing that from the list of players. If we come back up here... oh, we didn't have a breakpoint up here. I would expect we wouldn't have hit this one yet, though. Oh, we must have. I missed that one. Yeah, the death notification happened. I'm wondering if this is bad. Should I be ending turn or resetting turn? I feel like ending turn. This is causing the state machine to update immediately as well, though. Not sure if that's right. Let's just comment this out for now. I just want to remove that. Let's try again. We're so close. Well, close to what, I suppose. We're close to figuring out what's going on with this bug at the very least. Right, that's why we didn't have that breakpoint there, because it's going to hit every single turn. I need to add it on the turn we think we're going to die. Getting hit, getting hit, getting hit. There's a possibility this will be the turn, so we'll add the breakpoint back. I just want to see when this is happening exactly and what's going on there. Okay, so we are getting hit. Player count is greater than 1. We are resetting the turn so that the end of turn is false. Okay, that wasn't the turn. Interesting. So we are getting the end turn effect the moment I hit the input button. Oh, okay. Because I'm using the end turn, not a normal attack action, I think that is causing things to be a little different. But yeah, we're getting in here before the player's death, which I guess makes sense because we just said, hey, we want to end our turn, and then the combat system is saying, okay, your turn's over, let's go to the next turn, but the AI hasn't finished playing out its attack yet. Okay. So then we're coming in here, we're saying all units have gone, and we're resetting the turn to end turn. Then we get the notification here, which is adding the cutscene. Then we get the notification here, which is removing the unit. Then we actually finish loading this. And we're waiting for the player's input because now the turn has already ended after all of this stuff has happened. Huh. The problem is if we set the... Maybe what we should be doing is saying the turn is complete if we don't have any units, or if the current unit is turn over. And I think what that'll do is it'll cause us to continuously get into here and repeat through these over and over and over again. Until the cutscene loads, and then the moment the cutscene loads, it'll actually stop. So maybe this should only happen if the player director has units. So if the turn is complete and we have any responses, let's go to end response, which should trigger the end of cutscene. Else, if we have units, then we're going to end the round and then trigger it to restart, I guess. Otherwise, just don't do anything here, and we won't do any plans because the turn is over. So we'll essentially exit out of this function doing nothing until the moment that we're ready. Okay. All right, chat, I think I got it. I don't know if that was helpful, but it's what I got. I feel like there's going to be a lot of these bugs, a lot of weird timing frame specific issues that like were fine when the player would go and then the AI had a whole turn to do stuff before we would then go back to the player. But now that everything's happening kind of all at the same time, almost in one frame, to be honest, it just means that like there's a lot more room for these types of bugs where it's like, oh, I've both died and also have finished my turn before I even got the results. And so I don't realize that I'm actually already dead. We're going to try dying from skipping turn first. Okay, so that seems to work. And the moment we died, went directly to the Goddess Realm. Oh, I need to... This might be a... I'm not going to do it right now. That cutscene should only happen if we've leveled up our first skill. And I've made that change, but I forgot to parse the design data for that cutscene. Essentially, I forgot a step when I modified that thing to have a requirement. All right. I want to now try dying while swinging our weapon, because that was causing a crash. And it is no longer causing a crash. Holy smokes. Okay, cool. So, we have unraveled that complexity. Let's continue from where we left off. So we just finished going through all the early cutscenes before we ran into this crash that we had to divert on in order to solve. So if we continue from this point onwards, we were starting our very first run. So this is our first run after the kind of initial narrative cutscenes teaching us about the kind of gameplay experience. So now, if we come up to here, we see that it's a slime. We should try our slash ability we earned. And we can use this to hit the enemy. And we can kind of spam this a little bit until eventually the enemy dies, and then we can move on. I've raised their health recently, and I don't know whether or not that's feeling right. The thing is as soon as you gain like one level with slash, these enemies are going to feel way easier because you can get a point of strength, which drastically increases how much damage they take. So we can buy this. And then we have an extra skill point, so we could buy shoot as well and start leveling that up. Go back and do another run. Oh, okay. I thought we ran out of time relatively quickly there. It looks like every time we move with the enemy on the screen, at least, it's costing 2 time. I think the AI might be stealing some of our actions. Yeah, so after 1 point of strength, now they die in like 4 hits instead of like 8. I might want to play with those damage numbers a little bit. I made the enemy more tanky with health, but we might want to change their defense or something to modify things a little bit more. Yeah, because right here with no enemy on the screen, we're only taking 1 movement to move. But as soon as this enemy shows up, it's costing us 2. Oh, some of the grass that Drixie placed is set to be walls. So I couldn't quite make it to the next goddess statue, which was only a few tiles away. That's one of Drixie's big complaints right now, is that it feels real bad to be like 4 steps away from a statue. Although, that being said, you couldn't see that you were like 4 steps away from a statue. Normally, we've had it so that they auto-reveal, so you can see them as soon as you show up in a room. Maybe the way to make that feel less bad, which I had not thought of until this moment, is just to make it so that they don't auto-reveal. The reason it wasn't showing up on that run was just that it literally was a bug. We had disabled it by mistake, this auto-revealing stuff. So does this mean that we lose a ton of actions here? Yeah, we're losing 3 actions whenever the enemies move. All right, let's see if we can figure out what's going on with that. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the way this is feeling. The fact that we're losing so much time to the enemies is a problem. I'm gonna guess that that's simply that they have a cost associated with their turns. No. Is it with their movement? Yeah, I don't think the AI should have a cost. Because I think this magic cost advances time. Essentially, magic at some point stopped being magic points and started being actual, like, time progress. Okay, let's try another run. We can probably continue from where we left off. This should have auto-saved when we entered that kind of more of a U-shaped room. Now this is a bug I need to... Let's write that one down. We haven't actually been documenting anything because I've been just fixing it as it comes. This one I'm not going to fix right now. But we loaded up this map and we for sure had revealed a good chunk of it. So something is happening when loading save files, where it is not actually loading the saved information. Instead, it's reloading to a kind of basic, like, unrevealed state. How do I say that? Save... Or maybe it's more accurate to say loading maps from main menu causes them to start at default state rather than remembering tiles revealed. Okay. I would guess that also has to be an order of operations issue. Yeah, and now the enemy is only using one action. Oh, the attack looked like it may have used 2. If I move here, yeah, the attack is using 2. Okay, so that was the move. It should be using AI attack. Does this have a cost somewhere? It does here. Interesting. I'm going to move the audio part out and disable the cost. Little odd that that started happening so recently. That definitely wasn't happening before, so that could be to do with some of the changes I've made. With, like, I originally you would only have... You would have 3 turns to take. Now you only have 1 turn when moving, but that was kind of a bit of a hack. So maybe when I modified some of the turn order stuff for you, it broke it for the enemy. Okay, and now with that interact prompt, we should be good that when we go back to the Goddess Realm, we can check on our skill points. Gained a bunch more points for slash. Get a couple more points in strength. And then I totally forgot I even had bought the shoot ability. And now we have the Forgotten Grove unlocked, which is the second checkpoint. And so we can start here instead of at the very first one. Oh, that's interesting, actually. Not noticed that bug either. The clock is still at max, even though we use some time. Clock progress bar is set to 2. I still don't know whether or not this is minutes or hours, but 200, and doesn't max amount is set to. Update with max time. Okay. And then from this point, we can kind of continue further into the forest. Guess we can try shoot as well. Oh yeah, the strength value we have now is insane. So I think we can one-shot all of these. Well, maybe not one-shot, but one turn. Like, if we can get the drop on them in such a way where they don't see us. Yeah, just 2 hits and we get 3 attacks. So unless they get the drop on us. Yeah, like in this situation, if we move forward or left, it'll move to us and attack. I think that might be just a parity issue where we can't get close enough right now. Whoa, interesting. I don't think it was easy to see that there, but I couldn't move forward. Yeah, I can't move forward or left, and I can't shoot, and I can't move back now. Are we getting a spam of errors? No, we have a single error. Oh, some sort of end-of-turn response was trying to play. So this is a consistent problem I've been seeing across a couple of different bugs that all kind of yield to the same problem, which is that because we have this like end-of-turn response system, if you leave a room when an enemy has queued up an end-of-turn response, those end-of-turn responses try to play the next time you move, essentially, but all the enemies are done. Like, they're dead, they're removed. And then we get into like a stuck state here where we cannot move. Huh. I guess we write that down. I don't really have a good screenshot for that. I mean, I guess I could have taken a screenshot of just the character standing there in the room, but the bug here is if you change rooms while an end of turn response is queued up, the game breaks. Seeing as we don't have an image, I'm just going to make the text bigger. Alright, let's autosave. The nice thing about the autosave, it should put us back to where we were. The other thing we could do, talking about the goddess statues and like it feeling bad not reaching one, is we could make it so that just getting to a room with a goddess statue reveals it and it becomes a checkpoint even if you didn't actually interact with it. Oh, it broke again. Why did it break this time? No errors. Oh no. Okay, no, we're still good. Did I click out? Oh, I clicked out of the window or something probably. Oh, that's kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. If you walk up to the enemy, that alerts them, but they still have to go after you most of the time. The reason they're getting the drop on us when we reveal them is that when they reveal, they also alert at the same time. But in that situation, we walked up to it, and then it's on its turn saw us, but now it'll be ready to attack us in the future. But it does feel a little bit anticlimactic, I guess, where it's like it's noticed you, but it's not going to actually engage or fight you for a whole 3 attacks because you get to go first. Maybe it should take a turn, like a bonus turn, the turn it sees you. Oh, does this one not have an interact? Oh, when Drixie did all the prop stuff, she may have accidentally deleted the interact. No, I don't have the range. Health isn't really a big problem after we get a couple of points of strength. That being said, I think we got like a pretty stupid amount of strength very early on there. So I might just, I haven't done a pass on the skill trees at all. So it might just be that we need to make strength a little bit more rare. Also, they are all sharing essentially the same tree, skill tree, repeated over and over. I'd like to make each of the different skills have their own unique trees as well. Also feel like you're gaining too much experience too quickly, at least. Excuse me. Couldn't find the mute button fast enough. Sorry. I think I ate the sneeze though, so we're fine. Hopefully. Okay, so I think this is the video game. Oh, I caught it that time. I'm not able to move off the bat, and I'm very confused about why. But what's happening there is when we first enter the room, because all the enemies are already revealed, they're doing like a look state, which is normally what they do when they first show up. But it's less clear, so they're not doing it here. It's after we take our first turn. They're looking around a little bit. And I can't move until they finish looking around. Interesting. Oh, I one-shot that enemy. Yeah, the experience curve is a bit off. 73, okay. This is the part that, like, the simultaneous movement stuff is really made for, though. Like, this enemy over here would have used to, like, it slowed us down so much before, whereas when we were trying to just move, it would be like, we take a step, they'd move. We take a step, they move. But now that we have the simultaneous movement, and it just, other than this initial spot where they're looking around, which I need to fix, it just makes the game feel so much faster. Little bit of slowdown when we first engage the enemy from the alert icon, but other than that, still relatively quick. Can I fully reveal this room? We're at 92%. That's the other thing that we're not really doing a ton of right now, is like checking every corner. Let's turn the game audio back on again. Should be playing with the game audio in case there's any audio that seems weird. This is flickering as we move. It's because it lights up when you can actually take an action, but when you're mid-turn or when the enemies are going, it's grayed out. Which makes sense. I haven't really called that out either, but the fact that the experience or the damage that you do flies off sometimes into the middle of nowhere, I've kind of zoned that out because I'm just seen it for months and I haven't bothered fixing it. But that's again a kind of a timing issue where it's asking to show the damage, but the enemy has already died by the time we go to show the damage for it. And so it doesn't know where to show it. So it just kind of ends up kind of spawning wherever in the middle of the space. I don't know where this last 1% is. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably here, but the way that Drixie has added props, we physically can't get to that final tile. Which is on me. Drixie was very nice to go through and do an entire prop pass here. It's on me to kind of go through and kind of fine-tune these spaces, which will be much easier now that she's done an initial version. Can I avoid this enemy? Oh, almost. I can get away, though. Okay, so we found a couple of bugs, but honestly, things are working out better than I thought they would. Let's go back to the beginning here. I want to see if I can fully explore some of these other spaces. Oh yeah, I added this little treasure chest friend. Oh, and I can't fully explore this one either because there's technically a secret path back here for later in the game that I added. This one's at 100%, so we fully explored this one. This one's at 100%, so we fully explored this room. We haven't fully explored this one yet. Secret slime. Oh, and that was the last spot too. Okay, so we got another 15 units of time. It's either seconds or hours, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, and I don't think this one's fully revealable either because some of the stuff in the back. So we'll just end the run at a time here. buy a few more upgrades. Can't buy this one because we don't actually have V2 / implemented yet, but we can buy one here. Oh, and that's it. Oh, because we're just using / over and over again. So we've actually kind of maxed that skill out, but haven't maxed the other one. So we need to start using different skills in order to keep increasing our stats, which is the intent of the design. So that's working. I'm going to also document the thing I was saying a little while ago with the actually, can I get a shot of it? If I move here, I think I can get, yeah, it's grayed out now. So this bug, which is kind of almost polished more than the bug, but we'll call it a bug. The input buttons flicker gold / gray when moving. I don't think it's bad that they go gray. I just don't think it should flicker. If I'm moving continuously, it should just stay gray. We haven't really looked at combo stuff at all today either, but it's partly because these enemies are dying so quickly, it doesn't really matter. We're missing 1% in this room. Is it this tile here? No. What is the one tile we're missing? Is it over in this corner? Yeah, okay. Another 15 minutes, I guess. I'm gonna have to make a call on that at some point. Okay. Reveal down here. And this area is fully revealed. Okay. So there's a couple of rooms we can't reveal either because I've designed them so that they're not revealable, or there's some prop placements that need to be fixed on them. But I think we've kind of done everything there is to do. We could continue playing just to level up all our skills at this point. Oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. We start with 2 hours and 45 minutes, we'll say. There's a debug key to end a run right now. I wonder if that should just be part of the options screen. Like, just a button that's like return to Goddess Realm that you can click. That'll like close the pause menu and then just like transition you. Let's see if we can fully reveal this space. Yes, okay, so this one's fully revealable as well. feel like some of them may not be giving us extra bonus time. I didn't see the timer go up on that. I might have to check the footage later. So it feels a little slow having to hit the enemy like 7 or 8 times when you first start, but it's pretty satisfying when you get to the point where you can just like hit shoot once and just they're gone. Everything else feels so snappy, but that alert feels like it takes forever. It's maybe a second or even half a second, but it still feels like I'm having to wait on it to input my actions. I think I'd like it to be a bit quicker. Right now we only show the experience on the actual abilities, it looks like. It doesn't show it anywhere inside of those menus. Something we're going to need to work on. Yeah, it only shows your progress here towards the next skill up. And then slash is basically complete. I don't think I have some way of limiting your experience when you've hit max number of nodes. I'm going to need to figure that out at some point. Ooh, 82. How much is Bash going to do? 161. Yeah, I think I'm just giving away too much strength too quickly. Or we'll need some way of like maybe giving the enemies a slight amount of scaling based off of your progress. But I kind of like the idea that you can go back to older zones and the enemies are just easy. Could let the enemies get stronger over time. That could be interesting. Specifically, the more time you spend in the world. Right now, the timer's a little weird because it's not showing our max time. But say we have 3 hours. I think that we're an hour and a half in. We could make it so the enemies get slightly stronger. Maybe even not by a lot, but like over the course of the game, it could start to add up a bit. It's an interesting idea. So the longer a run is, the more difficult the enemies become. I would want some way of showing that, though, I think. I don't think I called it out, but this is pretty much the entire explored world at this point. We've kind of walked through and revealed pretty much all of the maps that we have. It's pretty easy to make new ones. It's just time consuming to put in all the kind of props and stuff. The tooling we've done has made it as easy as I think we can get it to, but it still just takes time to kind of place everything. Okay. Somewhat surprisingly, I feel like I was expecting to have more notes. Like, there's a few of these bugs, but they're not even really, like, the flickering is maybe pushable until later. It's annoying, but it's really more of a polish issue. The clock setting max time should be an easy fix. Let's take a quick look at that. What's that going to be? Clock something? Clock data driven components. We're looking for fill time. Yeah, it's just hard set to 121. Does clock state have a max time associated with it? it does have a max time remaining. So I think this is literally just needed to be changed to dot max time remaining. Does this get used to reset our values? Yeah, when we gain time, we gain both. Yeah, so I think that's that bug fixed. In fact, we could probably check that. There's not a lot here. There's like some pretty major features we're still missing. But in terms of like kind of core mechanics, I think this is it. Want to change up the skill trees to kind of balance how much strength I'm giving out. Might want to tweak the defense and health values of the enemies a little bit more, and I would like to have potentially stronger enemies. Like we have a boar enemy that Trixie was working on. That could add more variance. As you get deeper into the forest, you find stronger enemies that become more difficult. One thing that we're really not utilizing though is like multiple enemies at the same time, kind of by the nature of you go, they go, and you having 3 attacks. The enemies tend not to really pile up too much, so you're really only ever dealing with one enemy at a time. That could be to do with the patrol paths too. If I had the enemies trying to move to like, say, the entrance here at the beginning, then we could have them pile up a little bit more. But I have this one moving down here and this one moving back and forth this way. So that by its nature kind of ends up in a situation where you're fighting them one at a time. But we could also have more aggressive enemies that are like less, like right now they only see 1 tile all around them and then 2 tiles in front of there facing the direction they're moving. We could give them more. Oh, this also just broke completely. Is that because these are integers? It is. These need to be floats in order for us to get a value that isn't just 0 or 1. Yeah, I feel like we want enemies that are going to gang up on you a little bit more so that combat becomes more difficult. What else do I have under polish? I want to figure out a way of showing the experience you're gaining every time you attack with an ability. This timer is fixed now. It looks like our starting max time isn't correct, though. Did we start with 245? If that's the case, I feel like we've definitely revealed more than 3 rooms, and each room should give 15 experience. So I think anything past the tutorial rooms is probably not granting experience. It's just doing the reveal animation. Yeah, it's 231 right now, but I have a feeling that's 245 is where we started when we began the run. Okay, so that's a problem. I'm going to make note of that because I'm kind of struggling to find stuff here. Non-tutorial rooms are not granting bonus max time. Let's see if we can fix this one. This one's getting on my nerves. Just the fact that when we load a game from the main menu, it's not loading in the correct reveal state. Because we definitely should have that information saved. Let's... Where would that even be? Maybe let's go to something a little less... Sure, walk anew. Okay. Walk anew. This is a good background music for the time being. Board. Spawn tiles. Reveal board intro. Debug spawn all. Somewhere in here there must be a load function that's happening. Room manager, load, current scene. This loads the addressable system. But what about save? Load dungeon states. Okay, there's a dungeon state per scene, essentially. That makes sense. So we have a big list of these. So how does the board know state? No. We have a big list of states. How does this get used? This loads up all the states. Run load sequence. Here. So at this point here, this is where we load up and we set the revealed tiles. Here. Okay, cool. So if we put a breakpoint here, attach debugger, we should see some amount of revealed tiles in this list. So if we continue, load up that previous save, the visible tiles here is 0. Okay, so the room state has nothing. We got double music. Okay, so that's a good first step. That means that the bug is that we're not saving the data, or something is stomping the save data. Okay. Visible count 12. So that's correct. That's these tiles. When are we saving the information? Snapshot. Whenever we save dungeon state for scene change. Okay, so all of this used to work perfectly, but only when I modified everything to have simultaneous turns did it break. So I feel like it should be related in some way. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to see what happens if we leave this room. Don't care about triggering transitions. Don't care about outro right now, I don't think. Visible... Ooh, room visible state 0. That might just be it right there. Okay. Oh, but we haven't called this yet. So if we come back in... Never mind, never mind. Still might be a problem, but let's see. Oh. I did add... this chunk of code recently. I can't imagine... This is related to the Goddess Realm and hiding certain tiles and making them unrevealable until certain flags are set. I can't imagine that could be related, but maybe it is. Okay, so we're going to load the next room, which has 132 revealed tiles in it. Okay? So we're going to load that information. Runs... The room state has 132. Okay. It is also saving at the same time. Oh. The autosave is triggering, but we haven't revealed the tiles yet. So that's the problem, because we got to the load fine. Inside of the room manager, we got to this load call and it had 132 tiles. But right now what's happening is we're overwriting that data with basically nothing, because nothing's been revealed. So the autosave is saving over, saying no tiles are here. Because we're hitting the autosave before the board has done its reveal. Why is this a recent development, though? Why is this causing problems now? When I leave, does it save again? Currently have 0. Okay. Weird. So, if I had to guess, what seems to be happening is that if you have Sorry, I'm gonna fix up my menus a little bit. I realized I can't see all chats. Okay, so what's happening is that when you leave a room, it saves properly what was revealed. But when you first enter a room, the timing has somehow gotten off. I don't entirely know why, but the timing is now slightly off in that by the time we go to autosave, we have not actually begun revealing the room. And so we save that all the tiles are not revealed, thus stopping all the progress that we had made. Interesting. And we wait until everything is loaded from the dungeon. Or at least we're supposed to. That's what all these wait untils are done. This is wait until each thing is finished. Where is the room? This is the enemy. This is the player. This is NPCs. Room manager. It's literally the first thing. And board is complete. Load count equals 0. Huh. Okay. So all of these load counts are tracking all the props to make sure all the props are loaded. But it's not making sure that the tiles have actually loaded, which is handled by the tile animation system. Because we do have a start reveal, which has a reveal count. Oh, but this system isn't actually tracking how much progress you've made in terms of how many tiles you've revealed. This is for the actual, like, game data of have you revealed all the tiles on the board. Yeah. Well, what about reveal in progress? That should be here. That's one of the values we were checking against, isn't it? Yeah. So if a reveal has been triggered, it should also count. So that means we're not getting here before the autosave. The board reveal should be happening near instantaneous. Okay. This is another order of operations problem. And I guarantee the root cause could be tracked back to the way that I've modified the the turn order stuff. I'm gonna have to stop debugging to get back into a controllable state. This is the most ridiculous, not super interesting content. I'm trying here, folks, to make it digestible, but like at its core, I kind of, in order to solve this problem, I just need to work through it. Okay, so this reveal in progress, I want to check when this is hit versus when the room manager is hitting the saving of the visible tiles. Because it looks like the reveal stuff is somewhat dependent on turn order, because it's going to happen as part of like an intro sequence. Whereas the autosave is happening as part of kind of just the scene management. They're like at two completely different levels. So here's where we're loading. So loading everything, the visible tiles we're loading in is 0, which makes sense from what we've been seeing. And then after the load, we set everything to reveal true. We're going to hit this one a whole bunch of times. We're going to take it out for now. And then we're going to put it back in. We're going to leave. We're behind the tree there. Now, we didn't hit an autosave because we never autosave on load. If we're loading a map, we never autosave. But here, when we move between rooms, we're going to get a visible tiles. And we're going to find some visible tiles. Because we're going to be entering... No, when is this happening? This is on... Start scene change. So this is saving the room we left. And we are finding visible tiles as we go. Take this one out. Okay, now we're going to load 132 tiles, which is the room we're entering. So that's fine. But we are hitting the save first. So we're hitting this autosave as part of the dungeon initialization being complete. So it has gone through this entire function, and it is said that we have loaded all of the room stuff. We have loaded all of the player-related information here. We've loaded all the enemies. We've loaded all the NPCs. We've done all the back-end cutscene sequences are done. Interesting. That's saying the cutscene manager doesn't have anything that it's playing, but I would expect that we probably have a cutscene for the tiles loading that I would expect to be waiting on. Okay, well, we hit the autosave. When do we hit the... it's hard to tell which room we just saved. Negative 544 is the start. Has a count of 0. Okay, so it did find 0. Now the reveal is starting. Now the reveal is happening as part of a coroutine. That coroutine has 22 steps in it. The first one is a custom wait. What's the print statement? Transition manager. Transition is complete. Interesting. And then reveal board. And a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to guess this is coming from the intro. Combat intro state. Yes. Okay, so right now we are inside of that state machine on index 2, which is revealing the board. Interesting. Yeah, it's just... This is also waiting on the transition manager to not be finished transitioning. That doesn't make sense. I guess. All right, okay. So in some regards, this is not... Okay, this is not the same thing as the dungeon state stuff that we're looking at before. This is a kind of even higher level transition system to make sure that we're not in between scenes when we start the combat system. Okay, chat, I see what's happening. I have no idea how to fix it offhand. Basically, at its core, we are transitioning into the dungeon. We are hitting the autosave too quickly. And then after the autosave, we actually start all the revealing of all the board pieces. But by that point, it's too late. And we are now thinking tiles that we have revealed are no longer revealed. And so the way we fix this is either ripping up the core system such that the order of operations is different, so that the intro state stuff happens before the autosave. Or the somewhat simpler solution is we make it so that when we go to autosave, we check against the board's revealed tiles in addition to checking against... Because this knows the list of visible tiles, right? So when we get revealed tiles here for the visibility check, it's checking all the revealed stuff, but it should have a list of visible tiles as well. And this list of visible tiles is only ever set by the room manager based off of the data it had. So if a tile animation is revealing or reveal in progress, or the list of visible tiles contains key this key, does that just fix it? And does this cause problems? I don't think so. This is saying if a tile is revealed, then we should save that it's revealed. Or if the tile was in the list of tiles that we're telling the board is revealed, then we also know that it's revealed. I don't know. I'm going to try it. I think it fixes it, but I don't know if I'm introducing more problems. It feels like a band-aid more than a permanent fix, but it involves not touching the core timing of all of our loading. The thing that I keep going back to and I can't get out of my head is this wasn't happening. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was happening the entire time and I just never noticed it, but I just don't remember seeing this problem for the last few months. And we haven't really touched much of this line of, like, processing. So it doesn't really make a ton of sense that it would have broken randomly. Okay, let's reveal as much of this as we can. We're going to reveal a bunch of trees. We're going to reveal the goddess statue. We're going to reveal all of it. Okay, now, if we leave here, let me even reveal a little bit more here. But if, actually it won't matter because we won't autosave until we switch rooms. Anyways, so we're going to reload now and we'll load that autosave. And if we walk back into the goddess room, we should see all the stuff there, which we would have saw before we changed anything as well. Okay. Now the trick is, if we leave and come back, it should load with everything still there. Yeah, that fixes it. I mean, odds are we could have produced more problems with this. I don't know for sure. But it makes sense to say, hey, if your list of tiles that I told you should be revealed contains one of the tiles when I go to ask which tiles are revealed, it should still be revealed, because we never unreveal a tile. That's where this problem would eventually be an issue, is if we eventually have some sort of system to say, hey, we want to take visibility away from a tile for some reason, then this becomes a problem. Time being, it fixes it. I'm gonna band-aid it. We're gonna move on. Okay. I'm gonna move the flickering button to be a backlog polish item. I'm gonna have it documented, but I'm just not gonna work on it right now. Queued up responses breaking the game feels really bad. We could take a look at that. What else do we have? Hit notifications. Notification? Hit? Hit element? This is a piece of damage text. This is what happens when the player hits something. We run this object. It has some audio associated with it. It has a canvas group to, like, cause it to fade out, essentially. It aligns to the unit, which is good. Oh, it has two different parents. It has a hit data parent and a unit. I'm going to assume that the hit data parent... Yeah, this is a transfer component. So it essentially takes the unit one and then initializes it with some of the data from inside of the hit screen component. So what is this thing? This is the unit we're hitting with some display text, a color state, and like combo count involved. So does it have any idea that it's actually damage that it's showing, or is it just showing a piece of text based off some data that's sent to it? This is based off the state I hand it, so it'll color tint. It has no idea what these things mean. And this is what causes it to fly up. I think there's a non-zero chance that we can very quickly make the experience appear just by using this quote-unquote hit display component. We send a hit notification sequence step, which just allocates a hit component and then gets the display screen components sequence and then adds it to this list and plays it, which is I've never really liked, but it's been working fine. I think this might just work wholesale. Where do we actually give experience? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna love this. I might want to rework it, make it its own thing, give it its own kind of components, maybe make copies of these things so that it can be different from an actual hit. But I think we could make this work quickly. So Bash is doing a hit, and then the hit has some grant experience. Is this all based off damage effect? This is granting experience here. Is Bash, Shoot, and Slash all using the damage effect? It looks like it is. Hit effect. Oh, actually it looks like hit effect is what they're using, which for some reason has the same kind of idea as damage effect, but not actually using it. Oh, wait, a damage effect just is a hit effect with some extra pieces attached. Okay, so hit effect is the base piece. Okay, so here we grant some experience. Can we... Yeah, we can. We can save at the moment that we construct this information. If the ability spec is not null, then we can just do set property, and we can just set the value experience value as an integer. Okay, and then oh, this works so perfectly. It's almost like I built it this way on purpose. Property component. We're gonna make a new property We're gonna make a new property component called experience granted. We're gonna drag that into here. We're gonna copy this component. And what this is essentially doing is saying, hey, when you run grant experience effect, I would like you to set the property here with the value that you give. Yeah. So it's going to basically take this value and pass it into this here. We're doing it this way because there's a possibility we might eventually modify this experience by like some factor. So we want to pass it through this and into here. So now we'll have a property that exists called experience granted. We're going to make it so experience granted I want a set effect. Let's go to Bash. Let's grab found tile, go back into here. We're going to start by setting experience granted property value to 0. Experience granted default. Okay, so this is going to default the value to 0. Then if we get into the damage effect, we're going to give it either 25 or 15, depending on whether or not we defeated or not defeated the enemy. And then if we miss, we're still going to give you 5 experience as a little bonus. And then where do we actually do the hit? Default hit notification. If we copy this, we're going to make a new version of this, and we're going to call this, I don't know, experience hit, because it's confusing and I need to rename some stuff eventually. And then experience hit is still going to use a default hit notification, but instead of working off of the value of damage, it's going to work off of the value of experience granted. Now, which unit is this going to try and apply this to? It's going to get it from the target. Okay. We want to make a small change to this, which hopefully shouldn't break everything. What's a good example? Okay, let's switch this one up. Animation would be a good one. Where is my animation ability effect? This thing has this enum we use from time to time. And this enum can have a case statement for whether or not we care about the attacker, the defender, or a custom entity. Okay. So now default hit, instead of just directly using this value for unit, we can have unit equal to null, and then this unit value can be equal to either this one without the animation part of it, or this one. And it looks like by default we want this to be a target based, so all of our normal default hit notifications will work the exact same way, where they will get this value. We don't care about this. We don't care about these versions, I don't think. Okay. And then here we can do that. If unit still equals null after this, we're going to do a debug log error. And we're going to give the name of the script the error is coming from. Sure, bit repetitive, but that's fine. Okay, so if we give it the value of target, it will find the target and it will try and parent to that. if we give it the attacker, it'll find ourselves and parent to that. I don't think we care about combo count. Is that going to really mess us up here, having to worry about that? Like, what is this combo count being used for? It determines color. Yeah, it kind of messes us up. How lazy do I want to be? Kind of lazy. Property effects. Set property. We're just going to reset combo count to 0. Hack, 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 hack. All the hacks. Alright. Continue. Autosave? Yes. This should just work, quote unquote. So we should now have a piece of text that just appears. Nope, broke completely. Cool. Ooh, no error, break completely. Wait, where'd the enemy go? Oh no. Alright. Yeah, so we're not getting any text at all now. Seems reasonable. Change this to attacker. Is that a conditional property component just in case? I don't have an easy way of doing this right now. I feel like there's a very simple... What I want is I want to have a conditional property component that says this is conditional if the expected value is not 0. Why does that feel like it should be so simple, but my brain can't process it right now? I need to flip this value. Fine. I'll look it up later. There's a way of doing this very easily, and I don't know what it is offhand. Got it. I'll do it this way. Sure, that'll do. So if not is set, then do the inverse of what we expect here. Cool. I don't think that'll fix our bug, but I don't know, maybe it's just making things more complicated than they need to be. Surprised that we saw no errors or anything either. That's also kind of weirding me out. No notifications from the enemy. No notifications from us. So by adding this, we've completely broken notification sending. Is it the changes we've made here? What if we just disable this one and this one so that everything else should be the same except for the changes we've made to the script? Nope, still broken. Interesting. What was the change we made here? Just this? What if we put that back? So that none of this matters. Or at least theoretically shouldn't matter. Nope, still no damage numbers. Huh. Did I modify this thing in some way? I don't think I did. No, this should still operate exactly the same way. What did I do? I've basically undone everything, haven't I? Okay, well, it's just hitting the back button a few times and see where we go. Comment this out in case somehow I've affected things there. I didn't change anything in here, right? No. I'm gonna check source tree real quick, and I'm gonna see what is this default hit notification? Yeah, the only things I added was this chunk of code here, which now should do nothing, because I've reverted this back to the way it was. And I added this up here, which again should do nothing. So none of this should have any impact now. That shouldn't do anything. I did not make that many changes. I don't know what I could have done. I'm trying to see if maybe I modified the prefab by accident, but I'm pretty positive that I didn't. What was that hit? That was hit element is what that was called? Which is under scripts front end. Combat prefabs. No, I didn't touch it. actually very confused. I didn't modify anything. So why did... Yeah, I've completely broken hit notifications. And as far as I can tell, I've reverted everything back to the way it was. Okay. Only thing we can do is actually... put in a breakpoint and take a look. Oh. I saw the miss notification and then the debugging stuff. So miss works, but damage doesn't? Oh my goodness. Oh my, oh no. Oh, this is embarrassing. Oh no. Those were returns. It's getting late. Once we get this working, I think this is going to be the end of the stream. I said till 5. We're 30 minutes over at this point. I don't know. This was not a super focused stream. It was kind of all over the place with a bunch of little small bug fixes, but I hope folks enjoyed. I know a big thing is trying to get back in again and get back to streaming. It's been a couple of weeks off, and I just want to... For me personally, the big problem is always starting things. Once I get started, usually it's easier to keep going. So this stream was mostly just meant to be like, I'm going to get on, I got some time today, and we're going to work through some stuff and show where we're at. Okay, cool. So this should be fine. We can go back and modify everything that we just commented out. Okay, and then we can come back into the hit effect. Let's stop debugging at this point. Hit effect. Is that? Yeah, this one. Okay, in here, we're going to turn these back on. This seems fine. This seems fine. What was meant to be a quick thing, hopefully we can still see. Or hopefully it's still relatively quick. Other than that one copy and paste error with the return values, this still in my head should work. Or should work now. I don't think it's going to be what I want in the long term, because we're going to see that effect fly off at the same time. So we get hit. Okay. So we didn't see the enemy effect damage. But we're seeing the experience as 25. So the experience is showing up, but we're not seeing the damage for the enemy show up anymore. Oh, there we saw it. But with slash, we're only seeing the 25. We do have errors to do with sound effects. Oh, that's to do with multiple things moving. So we're using up too many sound effects when the enemies are moving and we're moving. So that's not going to be the problem. None of these none of these warnings are a big deal. Well, why is it that we are periodically not seeing the hit notification? Oh, unless they're overlapping? Because they're both playing at the same time, right? That should be an easy thing to diagnose. This is not going to feel great because we're adding a random amount of delay into the attack animation. But we should be able to now see a delay between the two different effects. Okay. There we go. We're going to try using slash because that was the one that was a problem. Yeah. Okay. So they were overlapping perfectly was the problem. And part of the issue is an old bug, which is that the AI damage doesn't show up where it's supposed to show up if the enemy dies. It's not anchored correctly on player death or on enemy death. Okay, let's start a new game. Actually, we might be able to load one of our saves. I think slot 3 we kept from earlier today. That was the beginning of a run after all the initial cutscenes. So this should have us have a low strength value, so we should be able to see a bunch of ping damage, like 7s and 4s on the enemies, and be able to hit them multiple times and gain a bunch of experience. And not one-shot them. So the damage number should show up in the right spot. I mean, that's working. Like I said, I don't think I love it in terms of like the communication side of it. I would prefer if it was maybe a little bit smaller font, maybe if it was showing up a little bit different animation, like... Yeah, I don't like that 0.3 delay at the end. Try it one more time. This time with that delay gone, because if we're hitting the enemies... that aren't dying to one-shots... then we shouldn't need the delay. Yeah, but them showing up at the same time is worse. not as overwhelming as I thought it would be, but still not great. Okay. I think that's the start of that, though. I'm going to need to iterate. We'll try doing like, we'll break it out into a separate prefab. We'll do a different type of hit notification for the experience. We'll have to write a little bit more code in order to make the sequence or the ability effects more flexible. But I think that's probably good enough as a starting point. Yeah. It's going to be more of a problem of what information we put on there. I'll still move it over to in progress. Oh, I forgot about this one today. I want to fix some of the way the battle music was starting, which I don't even know if we even really showed properly. Let's pause and let's show that real quick. And then we'll wrap things up. As more and more people join. I love that as I'm like trying to wind down, we've got Silent Noodles over here on the Twitch side joining in. Good to see ya. And just in general, YouTube spikes on the number of viewers. Always the way. All right, so in here, oh, the music isn't working, which is why it was... Oh, did I disable it? Oh, I think it was causing another really bad crash. Yeah, I'll turn it on just to see if we can have it show up. But essentially what I did was I made a little system that whenever the AI takes a turn, it like tries... it will check to see if it has any aggressive enemies, aka enemies that have been alerted to our presence or the player's presence. And if there are aggressive enemies, it switches the music. And if it goes to take a turn and it has no aggressive enemies, then it'll switch the music back to kind of the base level. So the water splash sound effect is because we're doing a heal attack. And so there's a sound effect associated with that green experience text, which is funny. Yeah, so we get that enemy, we get the battle music, and as soon as the battle's over, the music returns to normal. Anyways, so that's kind of where the music's at. I do have a bug with it though, where it doesn't work very well in that it feels like a little lame that you have to take a turn before the enemy's like music starts. So this being inside of this next function I think is wrong. I think that this music change should be more instantaneous. So that's another thing I want to tweak. That should be relatively straightforward. Otherwise, we've just got some UI that I'd like to work with Drixie on. There's some bugs around the options screen, which I care very little about the more I move away from having finished it. It's fine. It's functional for the purposes of this demo. It's not shippable, but it's okay. The combo meter stuff I still feel is a little bit off, but also enemies don't live long enough in order for us to be able to combo them. I feel like combat needs to feel more interesting in order to make combos viable in the first place. And then I'd still like to get some different voice acting for some of the audio, or different voice acting lines for Hero and the Goddess. I've got a couple of asset packs that I think could work, but I want to experiment. And then in general, I want to do a pass on the sound effects. Some of them are louder than others. They need to be balanced, which is going to be just tedious. And the last big feature we're missing is I would like to have chests that spawn items and also have items drop from enemies, and those items be like stones that are required in addition to experience to level up your nodes. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, but I want to try it. At the very least, if we don't like the stone aspect of it, we could always use the items that drop in the chest system for like potions or something else. Yeah, that's kind of the February update. I don't know, this is a bit long and rambly, but this is where we're at. I don't feel like we're that far away from being able to present a demo. It's just more cutscenes and kind of just balancing and tuning on the enemies, adding a couple more higher difficulty enemies, working out the experience showing, battle music stuff, more UI. Drixie's still working on a UI pass for the skills, as well as a few other things. Want to update the buttons. We have a interesting idea for the HUD. Maybe another pass on the enemy for the slime. I don't know. There's a lot to do, but also there is very much a lot less, and we've done quite a lot. I don't want to put a hard date on anything, but I feel like we're only a few weeks away. But we've also been a few weeks away since December, so yeah. Next stream, I don't know when we'll get a chance to stream again, is the short version. Discord, as always, is a great place to keep an eye on things. I tend to post stream alerts there, usually only a few hours before we go live, but you know, it's better than nothing. We probably will get a chance to stream again at some point in the next week, either this week from the 17th to the 24th or next week. I'm not entirely sure of the schedules, but I'm hoping at the very least next weekend we should be able to get to something. I imagine content is the next big thing. We've mostly fixed the bugs that I was running into. I'm sure we'll find more as we go, but it's a lot of content more than anything else at this point. Like, all of this polished stuff we could probably push off until after the demo. Even the item system, I don't think we really need to kind of get some people's feedback on this. I'd like to fix these last two in progress things, and then it's just building more maps, more prop placement, more tuning, more skill trees, more abilities. It's just more of everything. And then we should be good to kind of release it and let people try and play it and get some feedback, and then that'll probably generate a ton of stuff that we'll want to do. But for right now, it's just keep adding more stuff to it. Well, thanks for everyone for hanging out today. Appreciate people stopping in and saying hello. We'll be back at some point, hopefully in the next week. For now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.